welcome to episode 9 of the Real Shift podcast.
The Real Shit podcast. I'm sorry, because it is.
We're asking people to make a real shift or talk about...
Well, in order to make a real shift, you go through shit. You really do.
That's why I'm pointing to you.
Yeah.
So I'm you get the yin and the yang here.
The yin and the yang. Yeah, you go through hard times. Like, it just is. When you get to the mountaintop, you're at the bottom of the next. And it's just a constant climb.
And sometimes you fall down.
Yeah.
All the way down.
And then you have to shift paths.
Yeah. So there's a lot of shifting. We're hoping that this helps you make a shift or at least hear about our shifts in between. Today we're going to be talking about grow or die. Kind of dramatic.
It is. And over the weekend, we heard it a little different. Yeah. But, in this particular setting, we got there together. But after we had to sign our lives away, just kidding, that's very exaggerated. They said, whoever you came with, you can't sit next to. And it's like, what? So when he started talking about this part of it, he said, grow or decay. And I'm like, oh, we were just talking about that. But we were saying grow or die because it's
grow or die. Kind of reminds me of a quote from Shawshank Redemption, one of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion. And Andy, I think he's talking with Red, and they're in prison, and he's like, get busy living or get busy dying. And there really is no two ways about it. And, you bring up that point that we talked about this weekend, and it was a really cool, I don't have a whiteboard here, but this chart, it talked about, when you're born, you quickly develop in those first 5 years of life, your brain, your extremities, your body, and then you keep growing. And then right when you hit about whatever your age you're fully mature by, go through adolescence, and then you just kind of stop growing physically. You should be learning, but you stop growing physically, and then at the end of your life, your body starts to decay and shrivel, and maybe you lose some height. And he asked the question, from that 18 or 20-year-old time frame up until your body starts decaying, if this is the growth part and this is the decay part, what do we call that
in between,
in the middle? And my thought and my response, and a lot of others, was, well, that's stability, right? That's stability. Right. Those are the stable years before your body starts to deteriorate. And he challenged us on that. He said, there's no such thing as stability. Stability really is a construct that we've made up. Human beings, we like stability. We like safe jobs. We like a safe economy. We like safe is just in our DNA because we had to escape dinosaurs and the plague and anything else that could kill us. And locusts and hurricanes. But stability really is a false idea. So it leaves you, if there's no stability, then you're either growing or you're decaying, or grow or die.
Grow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to talk about that today in, what areas of your life, or do you practice that today? I know you're very active in your industry. What areas do you see it, or people on the cutting edge that really do push that envelope? Especially, as you're in your career longer, people tend to be like, well, that's just the way I do it.
Right. And I have seen both sides of that, right? People that have been in the industry for so long, and they're good. They've, they're still doing what they do, but just taking things a little easier, a little laid back, not open and willing to learn new technology.
Do they still use
systems.
fax machines?
Absolutely not. They've had to.
Because no one has a fax machine to receive their
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
document.
or they hire someone that's young that can
Yeah.
do the things for them. But then there's the other side that I've seen, same age, the older, and they are like on it. I mean, they're Instagramming, Facebooking,
What age are we talking
LinkedIn.
about? Like doing all that. What have you seen that up to?
It's early 70s.
And they're on the
Yeah,
cutting edge with
they're
all
on
the
the cutting
platform.
edge. They're, because they're seeking to understand. They're
Yeah.
seeking to learn, to grow, and not be left out of what's going on. And we were talking about that with someone today about that when people retire within, if unless you're still learning or doing or contributing in some form or fashion, you decay quicker.
Well, I think that goes back to one of those other kind of illusions, social constructs. You call it retired, but for the people that truly don't like, they don't have a hobby. There's no purpose or life pushing them when they just stop doing anything.
Right.
If you look at the stats on what happens to people for rapid decay within 5 years, it's pretty significant. Versus folks, and some because they have to keep working for financial reasons, and some because they choose, but there's more life that seems to be, even though their bodies are older,
Right.
there's more life that gets lived because there's a purpose, there's a job,
There's a
there's an
purpose.
assignment.
They're doing something. They're giving back in some way, shape, or form. But going back to the growing, I did. I went sideways there.
Yeah.
Just for my own in my own personal journey, right? With what I do, I mean, personal development for me has been something that I've just loved. That's our
Yeah,
book collection.
you've
It's
always
always
got books
about,
on the nightstand.
yeah, what can I pick up from this? What can I learn from this to just become better
Right.
as an individual, in my profession, as a friend, hopefully a wife and mother. Like, I feel that there's never a point that, okay, I've achieved, I've arrived. There's always room to learn more.
Yeah.
And so I am now back at school, right? ASU for the foundation. That's one aspect of it. And then, with with the company now, it's what can I do to enhance what I do, to bring more, to be more creative, to add more value, and serve with excellence. And then just in relationships, it's a lot of plates right now.
Well, when I was 18, as you know, I went and got my
Did I
real
know
estate
you then?
license when I was 18, and still at the Peach Fuzz, and got my license and had my first listing, property listing as an 18-year-old, which is kind of wild that somebody would list their house with me. And I sold it, which it did close, and that felt really good. But I think about the way we did it and held the open houses and farmed the markets, and I did all the things. But when I went to one of your events and I saw the latest technology on these virtual tours on how they can scan a house,
Oh, box brownie.
it
Yes.
was, I mean, to me, it was like, I've been out of the game, the actual real estate game, for such a long time, on how they could set up a virtual setting in minutes. What would take, I'm sure, the virtual houses that have been out the last 5 years, a lot longer to give that high level of a quality tour, and use AI and other digital features to put furniture in the house,
Yeah, the virtual
without having to
staging.
pay for staging of the home, and you could put it in whatever kind of fashion or era that you'd
Yeah,
like to
platform,
stage it
yeah.
in. And that to me was mind blowing, the cutting edge. But if you were out of the game, or let's just say you were a real estate agent 20 years ago and you went into a coma and you woke up now, you'd be like,
What the heck? Well, I think, the growing or decaying, the growing or dying could be applied in so many different areas of our life. In that, in the professional world, or just in real estate, I think, how are you setting yourself apart from everybody else? And in order to do that, you need to learn what's the newest, the latest. along with what
Right.
you do well, right? So it's like you're adding value to what you already do very well, but you are giving yourself like an extra lift because now your competition may be doing exactly what you do and you do both do it very, very well. There's amazing, incredible realtors out there
Right.
that do an incredible job. They roll out the red carpet for their clients. They are on top of their game and they're good. So what is going to be the difference between you, back to the you and them,
Right.
just talking about that, is leveling up your game. And how do you do that is by growing, by learning, by embracing newness, change, and all the things that come with it. Doesn't mean you have to apply it, but if you know of it, you now know something that maybe they don't know. They can't speak to it. You can, because especially in this now, I say, whether it be the generation, the younger
Teeny boppers.
yeah, the teeny boppers, those that are buying, right? Well, now they're saying 35, 36-year-olds, but the generation that's now, they know more things than sometimes the agents themselves when it comes
Right.
to the newest, the latest,
Well,
and the
they're
greatest.
savvy. They've got
Yeah.
mortgage calculator app, and they've ran it
They've
through
already underwritten their own file.
mortgage rates, cross reference. 15 lenders. They've built in their point options,
They
and
have
they're
an
coming
AI
in,
doing all the
and
work for them.
it is incredible. So question with this now, because I have some thoughts on both sides of it, and I do love ChatGPT. If you haven't gotten out
Bless
there to go,
ChatGPT.
I just ask it questions just to see what it says. But I use it every day. I just throw it out there. If you're lonely, it could be a friend.
Well,
But
they have AI friends. I heard about that.
yeah. There's some really cool ones out there. It's called, I think it's pi.com. Very personable touch, and just some really cool stuff out there. But I kid kind of like I had Chat GPT when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I'd have a doctorate in something. Like I would have just kept going, just ask. But ChatGPT, is it helping us to grow or decay or neither? And I've got some mixed thoughts, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that tech that's hit the ground this year.
Well, in the real estate space, what I have seen, right? Because I work with agents and brokers. Although I am a realtor in California, like I'm licensed, I don't sell homes. I'm not practicing, but I am very heavily involved, and I do go to all the things to learn about
Continuing
this stuff.
education,
Yeah, the
conferences.
CEs, and I
Yeah.
stay very much in the loop of what's all the latest and greatest. There are some incredible, incredible tools that realtors now have accessible to them to, one, level up their game. So it's not taken away from, you still have to do the work. You have to put in the parameters. For instance, there's the one that if you are listing a home, you put in the address, you put in the parameters, you put in the things, and it's written beautifully for you, very descriptive, and you still have to put in the information.
Your inputs,
Your
and
input
the
is
better
needed.
and the better the inputs. I mean, I've seen folks that also give classes on how to put inputs.
Correct.
And to say, I want it in the voice of this author or in the tone of this speaker, and it'll do it. And there, even the entry points has its own technique, artist, and science to it. And that does take some thought and effort, and that could even be an edge on how you input it.
Absolutely. There's this other tool out there that our marketing team had shared with me, because of course, emails that go out to my partners, and it's like, well, what's the open rate? What are we looking at? And she's like, hey, use this tool, and you put in what it is, and it will highlight, if you have an idea of what like your subject line is, you enter it, and it will calculate and tell you, no, that's like a 60%. You're going to get an X amount of
Right.
open rate. What? So then changed it up, did this other one. Oh, that's a 90. I'm like, oh, this is a 90. They're like, no, you want 100. It's like, dang, can I get 100? So I'm messing with it. I got 100. I was like, oh my gosh, I got 100. Okay, so use that one. Went in, I sent it. Dude, the open rate, I was like, what the heck?
Right.
That to me is AI, right? It's the intelligence. It's something that we're just getting a little extra lift. So yeah, I think it's great.
But helping us to grow, or are we decaying
It's helping us to grow.
as a whole because we're no longer relying on our brains for more of that input that we used to
Let's
use?
be real about the brain. Most of us don't even use how much of the brain?
Right.
Yeah. Like
It's a low
people don't-
percentage.
It's a very, very low percentage. I truly believe that it's helping us, and it can help us because here we are. We are in the technology. Like this is where we're at. We're not going back to Little House on the Prairie. It ain't happening. Outhouses are out unless you're at like one of the festivals and that's all you have. But that's not where we live. So kids nowadays, that's what's accessible to them. You still have to have a brain that you use to be able to input the information in order for it to generate. I think what it does help is it helps us have more time to do other things. So, for instance, you have a listing, someone that writing descriptions doesn't come easy to them. It could take them 3 hours to write a flipping description on a listing because maybe they have 4 listings. I remember when I had 6 listings at once and they were all sort of the same. And it's like, how do I make that listing sound different than that listing? They're all 4 bedrooms. They're all this. And you're like, dang it. Like you want them to come across
Pop and to be unique property.
What's the unique? So I believe, to your point or to the question that you asked, is yes, it is helping us because now that agent that will take them 3 hours or they're like asking 20 people, can you double check this, and not sure of themselves, they can go in, they can enter this information, it spits it out in 10 minutes, they read it, this sounds great. Guess what? Now they can go back to calling on prospective clients, or better yet, they can go spend a little time on their own mental health, go to the spa, do a little something for themselves, go hang out with their family because they're not having to.
Well, I think that it's.
And I just went that way.
If
it's okay.
If it's grow your business and efficiency, absolutely. But where I think it is not all grow, where I do think it can cause some atrophy in terms of thinking. Go back a generation. So 2 or 3 generations ago, people were pulling, they were in the library quoting sources or in their encyclopedia. A generation ago, we're in Google, and Google did require you to review the results, look for relevancy, and then extract that information to say, is this relevant to what I'm searching for in this paper or to quote as a site or source? To a full reliance on ChatGPT, if that is how it's used, which it can be because it's that good now, there's no check for relevancy. Looks good enough to me, eyeball. And that's where I think there is a danger where it can be used, where it creates atrophy, where you're no longer learning the lesson. But you can make the case, well, maybe the kid wasn't even going to do the homework to begin with. It's, A grade, no grade. So I'm saying I think it could be
paid
both.
People to
do work.
They got a degree and they never opened a book. Someone else did their work. So
and it could happen, but
that comes down to the person.
But I think it can be both.
Absolutely
is where it's at.
But I think it comes down to the person,
the motives, the intents, and
the integrity,
and even that is being the integrity of it, how it's viewed, even that's being in question.
Right. But here's the thing: like right now, hearing you say that, I'm like, okay. That's like going to church and them saying, well, unless you have the Bible to open and turn 20 pages, don't bust out your phone because that's cheating. That sort of sounds the
Well,
same to me. I mean,
yeah,
think about it.
and there's some places that
I mean,
I
right? I
think
mean,
that
by you just saying that, I'm like, that's what came to my mind
the
was like, well, don't, you got to use the Bible. You got to do the research. You got to flip through
right.
that scripture, you know.
No, the point I was making is there is a difference between somebody completely spitting out the answer that I'm completely using and checking for relevancy from a multiple list of sources. There's a difference in the skill set.
Absolutely. But yet again, you have a Bible that you're flipping and you have, what's the app that we use? I obviously
It's a
haven't
Bible
opened it.
app.
The Bible app. I forget what it's called. And you just enter love and it spits out the 20 verses of love. And you're like, okay, that one looks good. Let's use that one. I don't know. I mean, it goes back, in my opinion, because just my little simple opinion, in my opinion, it goes back to the individual. Either you're going to enter your information, you're going to get it, you're going to read it, change what doesn't look right, what doesn't make sense for you, resubmit it, because I've used it too on stuff. It comes across cleaner and clearer. And then you'll probably have those people that enter information and they won't even look twice and then they look the full because they didn't check. So
Yeah.
it's like the kid who paid, or not the kid, the adult that paid for someone to take all their college
there was
courses.
somebody I was talking to. They said
I'm like, what?
They used it for a work email, and the word it spit out was a word that they use in England that we don't use in U.S. speaking. They're like, "Did you chat GBT this?" It was like, "This word is we don't use this in America." I don't know. It was funny. He thought it was funny, but. Yeah, I think those are pieces. But going back to the beginning of the topic with
What were we talking about?
with grow or die, I think
Yeah, we like went left field.
we hit Chat GPT, and that's a big topic. But back to growing or dying, we talk about health. We've been talking about health, right? We got our walk in today around the neighborhood as we had some light rain, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
And we try to stay conscious with these things. But I think that's another thing now. And I do remember Zan that last year before he left college, he had learned so much about the cutting edge part of the gym. I mean, he gave me so many pointers that he
And how did he
took
do
away.
that?
And I mean, he learned it from reading and from school and from taking those pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it was even if you're somebody who'd been around the gym forever, there's still new stuff coming out
Right.
on these.
But that I love that you said that, because I think that makes that point even more solid. Because of the access
Yeah.
to information at a quicker,
It's quicker
so you're able to
Yeah.
learn more, right? And that's up to the individual. The individual that wants to learn it will learn it, and they get to learn so much more than if they were in the library having to ruffle through all these books to
Right.
finally find the one, and it takes them longer to get the information that someone can get.
which goes back
to
to our point about the baby's learning so much from 0 to 7, or the third trimester they start learning from the Real Housewives and poor kids. But yeah, we do encourage learning and growing, right? They do say though, with all the technology we have, for more efficiency, we have less time than ever because all of our free time usually gets filled up with the cell phone. And that becomes real.
And like totally off. I mean, I'm just off the
No,
cuff
we're
right
off.
now. We're just so off, and it's okay. This is us. This is anyhow. It was nice these 3 days.
Yeah.
We I had to send out the text messages to the family like, hey, I'm gonna be
Phones are off.
out of pocket for 10 hours a day. And it was nice. At first,
Yeah.
I was like, the first 2 hours, it was hard. Like, oh, my phone.
Nothing's
It's like,
ringing.
oh, it's over there.
Yeah.
Nothing's ringing. I was getting the phantom, like ringing in my vibration in
your
my
pocket?
pocket. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there was no phone there because I purposely put it elsewhere so I wouldn't be tempted. And it was nice to not have the phone.
Yeah, and it did allow us the ability to fully be present, number one, and to learn and take in new information. And handwriting. And there is a lot of stats and data that shows handwriting is the highest form of absorption for learning, even better than your computer.
Right.
It is.
I'm a hand, like I have to write
It's
it
just the
and then I enter
transference.
it.
It's just
Just,
the
I
way it
have
goes
to.
into the brain. But I think with that, at least I want to reiterate with this episode and just encourage this learning. One of the things that we got a good reminder of, and I don't think it's new information, but is the power of goal setting and being very clear on what you want. So if you want to grow in a specific area, you want to learn more about social media platforms or how to post or what way to post or continuing education in your field, set a goal with a date.
Yes.
Get somebody to hold you accountable, some kind of accountability partner, and write it down. But growth usually doesn't happen by accident, especially as you get older. It's it it's
It's
intentional
intentional.
because you're saying this is where I want to grow, whether it's in my health, my finances, my relationships, my spirituality. It's an intentional outlook
Right.
because everything's vying for our time and attention.
Absolutely. My piece of Deborah-ism would be, don't even wait till January to do it. Like if something drops in you and you're like, I really want to learn how to, take time to research it, figure it out,
Sign
find the
up for the
class,
class.
sign up for the class, because if you don't, it will it'll be another thing that you're looking to do. When I signed up,
Right.
it was so funny because when I signed up for that certification class through ASU, right, I had just met with friends over the weekend and we were talking about life. Like,
Right.
what are we doing? What's the plans? So we're all talking about the things that are going on in our life and plans. And this is a really close group of friends. And then that Tuesday or Wednesday, we met with Ceci, right, for happy hour. And she's like, Deborah, I thought of you. I signed up for this class, blah, 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 the nonprofit. And I was like, what class is it?
Nonprofit,
And,
yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's like, I need that in order to do this. Like, in order to be able to get this where it needs to go, that would be very beneficial for me to understand it.
Right.
And I'm like, how much is it? I'm like, I'm like, okay, I can do it. And I looked and she's like, it starts on Monday. I was all, I'm in.
Well, I think,
And
yeah.
I signed up and my friends are like, what the heck?
I
What did
think
you,
that is-
we didn't talk about school. I said, it was an opportunity. And I knew if
Don't
I
wait.
didn't do it,
Yeah.
I
You'll
wasn't
talk
going
yourself
to.
out of it, or you'll get distracted. And I think that's a really good point. The things that are good for us, sometimes, it's so easy to drag our feet for whatever reason, not do it, but then we'll impulsively do the things that are not great for us. And I think, sometimes pulling the trigger when it makes sense, it aligns with your vision and your purpose. Those goals really do help us stretch and grow. So we're always growing. But I think with that, we'll leave episode 9 with you here. Grow or die. We hope you'll grow with us. And
I think
like
I
and
prefer
subscribe.
the word decay though. Thinking about like,
Yeah.
guys are just so harsh.
Well, I think in terms
Decay.
of your cells and in brain cells and things like that, but we can say decay. We hope you'll grow with us as opposed to the alternate.
Yeah.
Like and
Alternative.
subscribe, and hope to see you back
Share.
soon for episode 10.
Yeah. Thank you.